$250,000 in cash doesn't change your life, and that's exactly the problem. The balance grows, the structure stays the same, and you keep trading hours the same way you did at 50,000. That number isn't a finish line, it's a switch, and almost nobody flips it. The reason isn't the math, because the math takes about a minute to run on the back of a napkin. The reason is three barriers that show up in high earners over and over, and today we break down all three: the arithmetic behind the switch, and the protocol that gets you past it. Escape velocity has a plain definition. It's the point where your capital covers a fixed slice of your survival cost without you touching a keyboard. And that slice doesn't have to be large before the structure of your life starts to change. This is not retirement. It's the moment your life stops running on a single engine, because until then every dollar landing in your account gets there because you personally showed up and produced it. 250,000 isn't a magic number, and I won't pretend it is. It's the switch point for this framework, high enough that capital income becomes visible against a real monthly cost, and low enough that a strong salary can still get you there in a handful of years. Most people cross that line and feel nothing at all. The feeling is accurate because the balance grew while the structure underneath it stayed exactly where it was. The research on this transition says something that stings a little. Moving from earning by labor to earning by ownership isn't only a financial change, it's an identity change and a risk change, and wealthy investors turn out to be no more rational than anybody else. They sit on more cash than their own situation calls for years at a time. You don't need a 2026 forecast to run any of this. The arithmetic compares two numbers you already control, so it holds in a high-rate environment, a low one, or the one nobody saw coming. Your switch point has a number attached to it, and you can compute yours in about a minute. The number is called the coverage ratio. It's your capital income divided by your fixed monthly cost, and it's the only figure in this video you actually have to remember. Start with the bottom half. Your fixed monthly cost isn't your spending, it's the part of your life that bills you whether or not you work, so housing, insurance, transport, groceries, childcare, and minimum debt payments all count, while the dinners out don't. Now take the top half of the ratio. Start with your liquid capital and apply a return assumption. I want to be precise about that word because the number I'm about to use is an assumption I picked for the arithmetic, not a prediction about any market. Use 5%. 5% of $250,000 is $12,500 a year, which lands a little over $1,000 a month in your account with no labor attached to it. Say your fixed cost is $5,000 a month. Your coverage ratio is 20%, which means one full day of every working week is already paid for before you open your laptop. Now run the same math on $50,000. You get roughly $200 a month against that same $5,000, which is 4%, and 4% is a rounding error nobody can build a life on. That's the real distance between the two piles in the thumbnail, and it's why the same person feels trapped at one number and dangerous at the other. Look at the ratio one more time, because it has two levers and most people only ever pull one. Raising capital income lifts the top half, while cutting fixed cost drops the bottom half, and shaving $1,000 off your fixed cost moves your ratio further than the first $100,000 you saved. Run yours today. An ugly number tells you exactly where you stand, and a good one tells you the switch sits closer than you assumed. That's the entire math. It takes a minute, it costs nothing, and it explains none of the reason you haven't done it. The first barrier is identity attachment to being the producer. It's the one that keeps capital parked in a savings account for years while the person who owns it works weekends. High earners build their identity on being the one who works hardest, solves it personally, and stays indispensable. Capital income breaks that story, because money that shows up while you sleep doesn't feel earned the way a delivered project feels earned. It comes out as over-control, and it always looks the same. No delegation, no hiring, and no outsourcing, plus a preference for income you can trace directly back to your own hours, and a low hum of guilt when the money works harder than you do. The behavioral research on high-income groups backs this up. Workaholic tendencies and money status scripts run more common in that population than in the general one, and money avoidance runs lower, which means the problem was never that these people fear money. They just can't stop producing it personally. Here's the version you'll recognize. Handed a free Saturday, The high earner takes one more client instead of spending 4 hours restructuring where his capital sits because the client feels like work and the allocation feels like gambling. Both moves cost 4 hours. One of them pays once, and the other one pays every year for the rest of your life. The counter is a control filter borrowed from the Stoics, and it fits in one line. Your duty is to deploy judgment and capital, not to stay the bottleneck inside your own operation. Identity explains why you never start. The next barrier explains why the people who do start quietly stop. The second barrier is loss aversion, sitting right next to control anxiety. Losing $10,000 registers harder than gaining $10,000. So people overprotect cash, underexpose themselves to assets, and call the result discipline. Borrowing to invest is the sharpest version of this. The definition is simple, in that you borrow expecting returns above your financing cost. And the same structure that multiplies your gains multiplies your losses at exactly the same speed. That asymmetry is real, and it shows in the behavior. Roughly 1 in 5 wealthy individuals worldwide use borrowed capital at all, while 60% of them treat it as a main criterion when they pick who manages their money. The tool isn't the villain, but using it without staring at the downside first will take you apart. Here's the part almost nobody names. A high income lets you stay safe for a very long time, so your mistake never arrives as a disaster. It arrives as 15 years of too much cash and too little ownership without one single Tuesday where it felt like an error. Nothing on a bank statement flags a slow mistake. That's precisely why it survives so long. Sitting in that state carries a cost, and the cost isn't only financial. Financial worry tracks with psychological distress, and the link runs stronger for people whose position is weaker, so the cash you're holding for peace of mind buys less peace than you think it does. What breaks it is premeditatio malorum, which means you prepare for the bad outcome before you commit to anything. Write the failure case first, on one page, before any allocation. Then size the position so that failure case is survivable and move. That protocol handles fear. The next one isn't fear at all, which is exactly why it hides the longest. The third barrier is status and comfort bias. Nobody admits to this one because from the inside it looks exactly like being responsible. You reach a life that's stable, respectable, and quietly reinforced by everyone around you. Protecting that feeling starts to outrank building capital, and the trade never announces itself, because it arrives one upgrade at a time. Everyone around you can see it, and you can't. It looks like spending to hold an identity, keeping excess cash because cash feels safe, avoiding any structure that seems complicated, and confusing a high income with financial resilience. Those last two aren't the same thing. Income is a flow that stops when you stop, while resilience is a structure that keeps holding after the flow quits. Here's the trap in its most common form. Every raise lands on the fixed side of your life, so the rent climbs, the car payment climbs, the fixed cost climbs, and your coverage ratio sits exactly where it was 3 promotions ago. That's the cruelty of the bottom half of the ratio. You can double your income and move that number by 0. The counter is to treat status goods as externals, then run every allocation through one filter, which is whether the decision buys you durable freedom. Comfort isn't free. It's a hidden cost the moment it blocks the thing you claim to be building toward. Name all 3 barriers and something uncomfortable shows up because they aren't standing in a line. They're standing in a circle. These aren't 3 separate problems. They're one loop, and each one raises the bar the other 2 have to clear. Identity keeps you producing instead of allocating, so the capital sits still. Loss aversion keeps that capital in cash, so the top half of the ratio stays flat. Comfort raises your fixed cost, so the bottom half keeps climbing underneath it. That's the whole reason a raise never produces escape velocity by itself. The ratio has 2 levers, and all 3 barriers push both of them the wrong way at once, which is how somebody earning $400,000 can sit structurally further from freedom than somebody earning $150,000. The exit runs in 3 phases, and they arrive in order. Stabilization is reserves, debt discipline, and base assets. The capital phase is where money, structure, and other people's time amplify what you produce. Ownership is where your income arrives from assets instead of hours. Here is the counterintuitive part. The rules change between the phases, so effort was the main lever in the labor phase, and judgment, patience, structure, and risk control become the levers after it. That's why the transition feels so uncomfortable. It cuts the visible line between effort and reward, and you spent your entire career trusting that line. Getting out of it starts smaller than you'd expect, and it starts today. There are 3 moves, and the order matters. First, compute your coverage ratio today, using one number for fixed monthly cost and one for capital income at a stated assumption, and then divide. Second, write the one-page pre-mortem before any money moves, and let the downside set your position size rather than your optimism. Third, freeze your fixed cost at today's level for 12 months. So raises land on the capital side of the ratio instead of the lifestyle side. Here's your step for the next 5 minutes. Open a blank page, write one number, your fixed monthly cost, and nothing else, because that number is the finish line, and most people have never once written it down. Escape velocity was never about earning more. It's the day your fixed cost stops moving and your capital doesn't. Subscribe if you want the rest of these protocols, because next week we're breaking down the capital phase and what the second engine actually gets built out of.